Hey, Jim Hart back at you here from Hawthorn Law, and today I want to share with you how to avoid the 4 risks that are inherent with every single member LLC that are out there. So my name is Jim Hart. I am the founding attorney at Hawthorn Law, and basically what we do at Hawthorn Law is we provide legal information, tips, and strategies that you can use to help protect your online business. And we do that mostly through this YouTube channel. So please don't forget to subscribe, hit the little button below, and hit the little bell thingy, as I like to say, and so you get notified whenever we post new videos. Going into the end of 2019, there was this renewed effort to build up this channel. In the past several months, I've started posting a little bit more regularly, and my goal for the remainder of this year and moving into 2019 is to post videos on a weekly basis. And then also one idea that I have in mind is to do regular Q&A sessions on either Thursday or Fridays of each week, where I'm just going to basically go in and answer viewer questions. So if you want to hit me up with a question, if you want to send me something, you can either leave a comment below, or even better than that, go to my Twitter. It's at Hawthorn LG. I believe that's right. Hold on a second, let me check. Yes, that's correct. At Hawthorn LG. Go ahead, and if you got a question, just go ahead and send me a tweet there and just mention me in the tweet. I think that's how that works. I'm not very good with the Twitters, but I think that's how that whole system works. So anyway, that's the best way to reach me. All right, so let's jump right into what I want to talk to you about today. And today what I want to share with you are the 4 things that you can do to avoid the risks that are inherent in every single member LLC. And before we get into that, let's do a little background here. So I've talked a lot about LLCs on this channel, and one thing I want to share with you today is what an LLC is. Now, when we say single member LLC, and bear with me please, because I'm getting over a sickness, which is why I don't know that I posted last week. I've been having a lot of coughing and phlegmy stuff. Disgusting. You don't want to know anything about that, but basically bear with me. If I start hacking up a lung here in the middle of this video, that's why. So let's start with the single member LLC. We call it a single member LLC because when you're talking about an LLC, the person that owns the LLC is called a member. So that's different than like a corporation where the person that owns the corporation is a shareholder. So you might own stock in a corporation, but when you're talking about an LLC, if you own the LLC, what you own is a membership interest. And if you are the only person that owns the LLC, you are the sole member or the single member owner of that LLC. So single member LLCs are different from multi-member LLCs where there will be a number of different owners, and there's a whole different set of problems that come along if you do have a single member LLC, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Now, the reason all this is important is because when you have a single member LLC, a lot of the reasons that most people form a single member LLC is because they want some level of liability protection. In other words, if their business does something that causes them to get sued, then they want to make sure that the person that's suing the business can't come after their personal assets. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, just comment below and say, yeah, I'm getting what you're saying so far. That would be helpful. When somebody does that and they're able to sue the LLC and they go through and sue the owners of the business as well, and they're able to get at those personal assets, that's called piercing the corporate veil. You do not want that to happen. And there are 4 primary ways that can happen, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about and how you can avoid the risk of that happening with your LLC. So basically, the first thing you're going to want to do when you're a single member LLC to protect yourself is you want to make sure that you follow all the appropriate, proper legal formalities that are required to operate and own a LLC. So this is going to be, you want to do the same things for a single member LLC that you would do if there were multiple owners and it was a multi-member LLC, or if it was an even bigger business than that. The biggest, most important thing you're going to do is you're going to want to have what's called an operating agreement. An operating agreement is an agreement between you as a member or owner of the LLC and the LLC to make sure that the LLC is run in certain ways. And that means that it talks about how you're going to take a salary. It might talk about how you're going to choose to buy property for the LLC, the type of business that you're going to be engaged in, the type of insurance that might be required, where the business is going to be located, all sorts of different things. What happens if you decide to dissolve the business, how much money you're going to contribute to the business to make sure it's adequately capitalized. All these things go into the operating agreement. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I gotta take a phone call. All right, so I'm back. That one phone call turned into roughly an hour and a half of phone calls, 3 phone calls right in a row. So anyway, what was I saying? So I know what you're thinking about these operating agreements. You're thinking, well, that is all well and good, but why do I need to do that? If it's just me, if I am the only owner of the business, why do I need to have a contract with myself about what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to run the business? This is why I'm in business for myself. I want to be able to do my business the way I want to do it, and I don't want to be bound by all these legal formalities. Well, okay, but if you want to protect yourself against potential legal liability, if you want to protect yourself against somebody suing you and getting at your personal assets, then you need to follow these legal formalities. That's all I can tell you. So the operating agreement is a big one that you're going to need to do. Another legal formality is to make sure you keep track of key decisions that are made in the business, and you do that with meeting minutes. So you're going to have regular meetings of the members, and in this case it's going to be you, and you're just going to have a meeting with yourself. And let's say you decide that you want to buy a brand new laptop for the business. Well, then you're going to have a meeting with yourself, and you're going to say, today we had a meeting of the members of the LLC, and be it resolved that we decided to purchase a new Apple AirBook, and the cost of this is going to be $2,000, and we are going to use the firm or the business credit card to purchase this equipment and pay for it out of the profits of the LLC, something like that. Anyway, that's what you do. That's how you do. You write that all down, you include it in a notebook or an online file that you have that's got all this information handy. That's what you do. That's another legal formality. The heater just popped on. I'm going to turn that off so it doesn't make noise. So another thing that you're going to need to make sure you keep good record of to make sure that you adhere to all these legal formalities is you need to make sure that you have good tax records in place for the LLC. So you're going to want to make sure, in all likelihood, you'll want to hire a bookkeeper who can make sure that you've got your accounting set up correctly and that you keep track of everything correctly that way. And you want to make sure you have good records in place so that when it comes time to do your taxes, that you've got a clear delineation of what was done for the business and what was not done for the business. Got something in my eye. So along those lines, another thing that's really important is you need to make sure that you have separate bank accounts, a bank account for you personally and a bank account for the LLC. So this is, again, very important to make sure that you don't violate what's called the alter ego doctrine, which basically is a doctrine that says that you are basically the same as your business. And if you are the same as your business, then that's going to be problematic, and that's a way that somebody can come in and pierce the corporate veil. So if you just use the LLC as your personal bank account, or let's say you set up the LLC, you follow all the paperwork so you've got an LLC, and then you just deposit everything from the LLC into your personal bank account, that's a problem. You need to set up a separate bank account with a separate EIN for the LLC. All the income from the LLC goes to that. If you want to take a capital draw, I've got another video. I'm going to include a link up here to how to pay yourself out of the LLC. It's a fairly simple process, but it's going to depend in large part on whether or not you elect S corporation status. That's another video, which I'll probably put up here as well. So that's another thing to consider. You want to make sure that you have a separate bank account for the LLC and yourself personally. If you want to take money out of the LLC, that's fine. Pay yourself out of the LLC, or if you need to put money into the LLC to pay bills, then you make a capital contribution or a loan to the business to pay your bills, and then you do it that way. But make sure you have the two separate bank accounts. So that was a long way to say the first thing, which is to make sure that you follow the appropriate legal formalities for your business so that nobody can pierce the corporate veil that way. The number 2 tip I have for you on how to avoid liability with your business is to make sure your business is adequately capitalized. So what I mean by that is when you get money into the business, you want to keep it in the business to pay the operating expenses of the business. If you get money in the business and you immediately take it out and put it into your own personal bank account and you think, oh, well, now they can't get at that money, that's a problem because they could technically get that money. If your business is not properly capitalized to pay for the expenses related to that business, if it's undercapitalized, then that is a reason why somebody would be able to come in and pierce the corporate veil. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to avoid commingling personal and business funds. We already kind of talked about that. This is the alter ego doctrine again. Just you need to make sure you have 2 separate bank accounts, one for the business, one for your personal. We already talked about that. I'm not going to dig too much into that right now. Number 4 is a big one. This is something that a lot of people mess up quite a bit, and you need to be very careful of. And that's that you need to act as the owner of the LLC. So when you, I've got this brand new, it's not new, but I've got this beautiful new office condo that I just leased in the name of my law firm to house my law firm. It's great. We got 6 offices. We've got a lot of room, a lot of space. When I signed the lease agreement, I signed it as the president of the Hart Law Firm, which is the name of my law firm. This is at Hawthorn Law. I'm doing business as Hawthorn Law. The name of the business, or the name of my parent company, is the Hart Law Firm. And I signed the lease as the president of the Hart Law Firm. And anytime you enter into a contract, whether it be with somebody as an independent contractor or an employee, or whether you're doing work for somebody on a consulting basis or something like that, anything you might do where you have to enter into a contract, where your business has to enter into a contract, business is the entity that needs to sign the contract. And you will basically sign it as the name of the LLC by your name as owner or member or whatever it might be. I'm a president of my corporation because my law firm is formed as a professional association, which is a type of corporate entity. It is not formed as an LLC. But if I were an LLC, I'd be owner or member or something like that. Struggling today, man. Whew. All right, so there you go. 4 things that you need to think about when you are forming your single member LLC to make sure that nobody can sue you and get at your personal funds.